How did we get from this to this? Well, I first start off with a little bit of lemon juice and some ketchup.
In 1989, the original Game Boy came out. And if you were around for that time, then dang, you're old.
But not me, because I'm a young whippersnapper.
The Game Boy released for $89.99, or $228 in our times price. It had a monochromatic screen, 2 face buttons, used 4 AA batteries, and played 8-bit games. Sure, a dinosaur for some people, but I had a Game Boy growing up and spent countless hours playing Pokemon Red. And it was home to a bunch of fun games that in the end set it apart from the other so-called advanced portable consoles at the time. It's all about the games in the end. So when the Game Boy Color released in 1998, the original Game Boy was outdated. And so was the Game Boy Color, I guess, on release. But that's the kind of thing Nintendo does. Release a console that's not the most cutting edge in graphics or power, but cutting edge in Nintendo-y kind of things like games and features. The Color was technically not a full console sequel to the Game Boy, and Nintendo says it was just an iteration to the Game Boy, kind of like the PS4 Pro to a PS4. But I will die on the Game Boy Color is its own console generation hill. See, that's me on the hill right there. The Game Boy Color added, well, color to the games, along with more power and updated graphics, a TFT screen that still wasn't backlit. But now you only needed 2 AA batteries, which is easier to find than 4, trust me. Since Nintendo counts them together, the Game Boy and the Color sold 118 million units, which only the Nintendo DS beat, besides the Switch of course. So the next system, although it's the most advanced Game Boy, the GBA, only sold about 81 million units. The GBA was a 32-bit system, upgrading from the 8 that the Game Boy Color had only 3 years after it. And well, it was advanced. Finally, you could play some more up-to-date games with the year of its release. And it didn't have a backlit screen. Nintendo had to make that Wormlight money, am I right? The GBA SP added a backlit, but it wasn't the first time they did that. Remember the Game Boy Light? Of course you don't. So from 1989 to 2001, Nintendo portable consoles stuck with the Game Boy model, and it was successful. But then in 2004,
It all changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Nintendo released the Nintendo DS.
and it was completely different than anything before. It had 4 face buttons instead of 2. Oh yeah, 2 screens and a touchscreen or whatever too. So at this point, 15 years between consoles. It's basically the same time difference between next year and the 3DS release. The DS was 64-bit, which means of course, well, no one knows exactly what it means, but the graphics look like this. And when Super Mario 64 DS came out, I made this face. Still, Nintendo did the same thing again. The DS wasn't the most powerful or had the best graphics compared to the PSP, and again, it outsold its competitor. Double the screen means double the gameplay, am I right? Their last true portable only console was the 3DS, and it continued the dual screens, and now it added a 3D effect that everyone loves and uses it all the time. The 3DS was a modern console at its release. The graphics, the features, online capabilities, cameras, a headphone jack. Oh wait, that was in the original Game Boy too. The final evolution of the Game Boy lineage. The 3DS had a rocky start, but ended up pretty much saving Nintendo when the Wii U was failing harder than the Wii U. Too soon? The new 3DS brought some extra features and gave the 3DS a boost up until, yep, the Switch. You could say it switched things up. What the? The Nintendo Switch ended Nintendo's portable-only consoles, and thus far they've gone with the hybrid model, which is kind of what the end goal was for portable gaming, I guess. So technically the Switch is an evolution of Game Boy and the NES, and is everything they have made before, or maybe I'm just overthinking a video game console. I know the Switch 2 is out already, but the
vast amount of technology between the decades. But they did get here again, adding a little bit of lemon juice and some ketchup. Uh-oh.